Had to spend the last 4 hours next to a window in my bathroom. My nerves are shaking. My muscles are screaming in pain. I'm getting spasms like crazy. My heart doesn't want to work. It wants to just give up, but I won't let it. My breathing is taxed, and that's from the mold. When I fall asleep, it blows in right over me. So when I go outside or go by the bathroom window, I get slowly better. After 4 hours, now I can talk and make small movements. But I wanted to go over what I've been doing for the last 4 hours kind of slowly as I do it. I've been looking at antispasmatics. Now, I've been looking at antispasmatics and anticonvulsion, anti-seizure, all different types of medications and plants. But I want to mention one of them that I don't need on the list because I already tried it and it has little to no success with me. But it's very interesting because a lot of people think that it's like an opiate, but yet it's not. It doesn't act like one, and I don't use it anyway, so it wouldn't matter. But I did want to put it out there. So when I lived in Chelmsford, I used to grow these beautiful orange flowers. Now they don't grow bulbs, they don't grow anything like you would think, because it's called California poppy flowers. California poppy flowers. Now, they're not quite the poppy you think of with the bulb that you cut into and drain the sap out of, because when you're harvesting the actual poppy, you're trying to make something really bad like heroin. You get a bulb, a big green bulb, you cut into it, and like a white sap comes out, and you collect that. We're not talking about that. We're talking about an orange flower that never turns into a bulb, and you use the petals. You actually use it in teas and herbs. It's not the same thing. It's very different. You also can get these in America. There's plenty of them growing in fields. They're all over America growing wild. And they name them California orange poppies, or they have a couple different colors. It's a little different than your average poppy. This is a California flower that they named like a poppy and doesn't quite make the bulbs, and you can't get high off of it or make any real opiates with it. But what you can do is make a tea with it as an antispasmodic. If you Google antispasmodic herbs, that's one on the list you'll see. You'll also see ghost pipes and some other stuff that I don't think would be on the top of my list. There's things like spearmint, peppermint. There's a lot of them that I do use, like cloves, that do help, that are much safer. I have not tried this ghost pipe yet. I think I'm 10 years away from trying that. I'll have to get a lot more information from the doctors and make sure it won't make my condition worse. But I thought that was interesting. That's something I tried 10 years ago called California poppy flowers. Tried to grow it. Um, I ended up having to order a tea that already had in it to actually try it in like a tea. I had to have somebody else who already makes these tea bags send it to me. And that was about 8 to 10 years ago. Did nothing to really help me. That was it. But if anybody else wants to know about it, I guess these flowers are supposed to help with pain and spasms. There's a whole list of antispasmodic herbs out there, and I find it extremely interesting that these herbs have a lot of benefits in the human body and have less side effects than a lot of these heavy pharmaceuticals, yet people don't even know they exist. They'll say they're suffering, they hurt, whatever is going on with them, but then they'll walk by something that might make them feel better, or somebody might give them advice who's been knowing these plants for 2,000 years or something, and then a doctor who just created a medicine that next week will say, okay, take this, and you might experience suicidal thoughts, you might experience depression, you might experience heart palpitations, you might experience vomiting, you might lose your left leg, you might lose the ability to use the bathroom, your prostate might stop working, you might have spasms in your legs and arms. They give you all these lists of horrible things that could happen to you, and you say, what is this medication for? oh, it's just to help your complexion. It is to help acne go away. Or they tell you, oh, this is for your mental health that your mother made up for you. Or they come up with some mild thing that could be treated in a better way, like with therapy or with herbs or even with a good amount of supervision and just writing it down. One of the main things you have to do is figure out what's going on with people in general, your children, people, neighbors. The doctors need lots of information to give you a good diagnosis. A lot of people don't realize that doctors are only as good as the information you give him. So if you're only giving them little bits of information, or your information is not on point, then you can expect the doctor just to load you up with meds you don't need, and then you'll get worse. And I see that happen to a lot of people. They'll lie, manipulate about their addiction. I've seen a couple of people living in the shelter with me. I had to explain to them, don't do that. They're like, oh, I'm not telling the doctor the truth. No, tell him the truth. He's not going to get you arrested or anything. Go tell him the truth. And I had to tell a lot of these homeless people, no, you need to tell your doctors your truth. That's why you can't get anything to help yourself. I was always truthful with the doctor, but I was mistaken when I was a child. I was going along with this narrative that my mother made up for me, even though it didn't make sense, it didn't add up, and I was getting sicker. I still went along with what my mother wanted for me. If my mother said jump, I jumped. If my mother said sit, I sat. If my mother said, you are a dog and the dog is better than you, the dog is better than me. This is just how it was. My mother got her way. And as I got older and older, I started to realize that that was part of my problem. I had to make sure that I'm not giving the doctor bad information. And so that's when I started opening up truly about everything that was going on. But at this time, I was already moved to 10 different states. I already saw 100 different doctors. So at this point, I only could use the information I've already given him. Now, I've told them a million times about this night, how I passed out, how I lost the ability to walk, feel. I told them all about what was going on with my mother. I mentioned it over and over, and boy, did I get hell. Boy, did I get treated badly every time I opened my mouth about what was going on. That's part of the problem, too. When I told the truth and I opened my mouth what was going on in the household, I didn't get treated that well after. I'm just trying to say, hey, I'm shaking, something happened this night, I really need help. And then the response from the doctor is, oh, that doesn't sound too good. Then they look at my mother and father. My mother goes, oh, that was just allergy attack. Forget about that. We need to move on. Stop talking about that, Zach. Okay, that's in the doctor's office. She says that. Or she would say, a couple years later when I brought it up, she would say, that was a long time ago. Forget about it. And she would get really kind of white and flustered as she said this. But then when we got in the car or when we got home, oh boy, did she get angry at me. How dare you talk those things to the doctor? How dare you tell the doctor these things? Even though they're absolutely true. I did lose the ability to feel. I am numb. I can't move my arms properly. Something happened that night and you're doing it again and again to me. Something happened during my adoption. Something happened. This happened again and again. She would give me a handful of meds. I would have a bad reaction and I wouldn't wake up with problems, health problems. And this was continuing to happen whenever she wanted me to be quiet, still, or out of the way. And I did speak up about it, but I should have spoke up a lot more. I should have been going to the police department. I should have been speaking up to all my teachers. I should have been going to every authority figure I could find. But I was telling the doctors, I was telling my father, I was telling my mother. Those are the people I was telling about this. My father, it was more during the doctor's office that he overheard it, because he really wasn't wanting to hear any of this. He doesn't want to deal with this. This is too much for him to deal with. It's much easier just to let me die. I mean, that's pretty much the plan, by the way. If anybody's wondering what the plan for me is, what my father and mother's plan was, and what it still is for me, is to let me die. That's it. Cripple me for Social Security, and then when I'm 18, just let me die. That's all. Send me into a hole in the woods, and I'll shake myself to death. That's the plan. They never, had any infrastructure for me to work with. They never treated any of the illnesses they created. They just cover it up with a mental illness and sent me out to pass away. So that is going to be what most likely happens. Now, I've worked really hard to prevent that. I really have. I mean, if I was self-destructive or like a lot of the people I saw on the streets, I probably would be dead today. I mean, all these shakes, head injuries, most people couldn't take the stress. All the robberies, all the people taking advantage of me while I'm unconscious, all the dangerous falling and down into the road or dangerous situations, like getting stuck in the woods when it's 0 degrees, because that's where I'm living. Most people couldn't handle all this. But see, I was handling people drugging me and having problems through my whole life. I've always had problems in my life. The only time I remember there not being problems is before I moved in and before this overdose. Before I was overdosed at age 7, I remember climbing to the second bunk at this program. I was in an orphanage before I went into foster care. I remember climbing without shakes. I remember talking to other kids without shakes. I remember them just starting the medication at that time without there being a lot of crazy shakes, seizures. I remember being able to move my body just fine. I was learning how to talk just fine. And then one night in Westford, we went to watch a movie, and I was never the same when I woke up. And then this continued. Then we went to go to an adoption party, and we went to get me adopted in court. Boom, I'm out. Out like a light. My breathing slows down. I can't stay conscious. I can't even walk. Now, these behaviors in my mother where she drugged me repeated over and over and over and over and over. That's not right. And what makes it even worse is there isn't much people who know about it. There's me, my brother, my father, my nephew. I think we're the only ones that saw some of these behaviors in my mother. Now, a lot of this was right in front of him, right in front of them. It wasn't like this is something that is hard to find. No, this is like somebody screaming at a 5 or 10-year-old right in front of the other person for nothing. You're a dog. You're a pet. You do what I say. You take these pills if you like it or not. Where's the alcohol? Let me get a bottle. Go, 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 go. I mean, that's right in front of you. He saw the drinking. He saw the mania. He saw her go out and say there was people up and down the hallway when there clearly wasn't. You're not hearing people up and down the hallway. I'm not hearing people up and down the hallway. That's obvious. But instead they want to say I have people over. I never was able to have a friend over for one main reason. They were afraid of Patricia. Even my teachers were afraid of Patricia. That my mother used to write this note system at my schools, and the teachers would be mortified at her notes. They would give me a compliment saying, Zach's doing a wonderful job. He did his classwork all day, blah, blah, blah. They would write a note. I would go home. My mother would twist it up, scream at me, beat me for something that I didn't do. And then I would go to school and they would be horrified. They would say, what is this note? We don't understand this note. You did fine yesterday. You did great. That's what we said in the note. Well, what's going on with your mother? She's acting psychotic. And there's many teachers who came up to me and said, your mother is something else. There's something going on with her. And I said, yeah, I know. I'm used to it by now, though. Many, many teachers used to see these notes and be like, this is crazy. This is crazy. Yeah, there's something wrong here. And so this was just something wrong with her in general. And like I saw it, my brother saw it, teachers saw it in the notes, people just saw it. But my father didn't want to see it. If he just opened his eyes and woke up, he could have easily. It was right in front of him. Some of these times he had to literally avoid it on purpose just to not see it. Like, I'll give you an example. One of the times that he did have to handle this mental illness that my mother had was in the car. We were in the car. We coming back from supper. They both had a couple too many drinks. My father looks okay. My mother's not okay. She's going on one of these psychotic rants where she's screaming, she's calling me names, she's psychologically damaging my brain, she's just twisting all these different things. When I've been quiet all night, I'm quiet in the car, I haven't said anything to deserve this, and my father sees this. And after about, I don't know, 15 minutes of abuse, of screaming, of calling me a dog, or I'm worse than the dog for no reason, and this is not prompted. This would just be, she would just start up drunk for no reason. This was really common. Even the teacher saw it in her notes. So at this point, he's trapped in a car with her. He can't go into the kitchen. He can't go for a ride to the store. He can't disappear. He's stuck next to her doing this. But he allows her to do it for about 15 minutes, hoping that she'll just, run herself out. She'll keep on calling me names. She'll still say hurtful things. She'll still act all psycho, say that everybody needs to be drugged. And at this point, after a long time of this, then my father had enough and said, "You got to stop this. You got to stop this." And then she goes, "Oh, I'm the queen. I don't got to stop anything." And there was a big argument between them. They screamed at each other. And that's the only one time I saw him handle this. And that's because he couldn't run away. They were stuck right next to each other in a car. I swear he's going to pull over and try to go in the woods just to avoid it. I really did. I swore my father would pull over on the side of the road and just start walking into the woods and leave me in the car with her. I bet that's what he was planning, but he decided not to. Because most of the time, that's what he did. He would walk off and just leave her to torture me. It was horrible. Now, on this occasion, that would have became a beating. She would have started whacking me. She probably would have given me extra pills to shut me up or something. But he couldn't avoid it. He was right next to it that day. But there was hundreds and hundreds of times that she lost it and would do these horrible things. And then nobody would pay any attention. They would try to avoid it. They would try to ignore it. They would just let me take the full front force of this. I was a lightning rod for my family. If I didn't come in there and take all of this, then this would have been redirected at maybe Seth, Javier, one of my family members. One of my other family members would have had to take this if it wasn't for me. And I don't think they appreciate that. I took all of this. I was a lightning rod and I kept the family together, even when my birthdays. I mean, usually on my birthdays, my mother sometimes would act like this when she had too much to drink at night. I realized this. I'm having a birthday party. My mother's going to get really drunk, and then when everybody's gone, things are going to go a little crazy. So, what I actually asked was, don't get me any gifts, don't get me anything for my birthday. All I want is the family to get together and be nice. That's all. I want family members to get together and be close to one another. And I remember, I'm like 10 years old asking for this every year. I want people to love one another, care about one another. Also, that way when she acts and has these mental breaks, people see it more. Where a lot of family members did see this. It just wasn't as bad as when I see it in private. I mean, I saw the drugs. I got to feel what she was doing to my body. I got the beatings. I ended up getting all the full front force. They only got to see a hint of it here or there. And then they never wanted to handle it or speak up about it. But my father's the main party who should have been speaking up. He's intelligent enough to know that this was wrong and there was stuff going on that's wrong. And the fact that his son is telling him something's going on, his other son, is telling him something's going on, his grandson telling him something's going on, and his stepson is saying something's going on. And what does my father say? You all are wrong. You don't know what you're talking about. You have some weird problem. You have some weird problem. You have some weird problem. And you have some weird problem. No, all he has to do is understand where we're coming from and open your eyes right in front of you. And this could have ended a long time ago, but it's over now. I just have to deal with the consequences of their actions, what I think is wrong. I have to pay money out of my pocket to fix something that I didn't do. I have had to spend a lot of money fixing mistakes that I have created. I have before. I've had to do all different types of things. But the fact that I will have to spend thousands of dollars for the rest of my life fixing something that was done to me, that's wrong.